Assalamualaikum and good day to Madam Nik Rozila binti Nik Muhammad Masdi and audience. My name is Nur Aina binti Azman. Today, we were going to presenting our group assignment 2 for ISB511 Principles and Practices of AR-RAHNU. In this assignment, we required to analyze the gap between the current practices of AR-RAHNU operation in RHB Bank and practices as outlined in the exposure draft on AR-RAHNU provided by Bank Negara Malaysia and answer 6 questions that have been given. I will start the presentation with the definition of AR-RAHNU. The definition of AR-RAHNU based on the exposure draft of Bank Negara Malaysia, AR-RAHNU refers to a contract in which a pledger, which is Rahin, commits an asset as collateral, which is Marhun, to a pledgee, Murtahin, to meet an obligor's responsibility or obligation, which is Marhun B, owed to the pledgee in the case of the obligor's default. AR-RAHNU offers public short-term funding by letting customers to pawn their jewellery to banks or pawn shops as collateral. The meaning of AR-RAHNU based on RHB Islamic Bank has similarities with exposure draft, which defines AR-RAHNU as Islamic pawnbroking institution that gold jewellery can be offered as a surety against credit. The bank will provide the customer a loan and keep the gold jewellery as collateral. The bank will charge a fee for the service of safekeeping. When it comes to the AR-RAHNU contracting parties, there is no discrepancy between the pledger eligibility requirement set by RHB Islamic Bank and the capacity requirement law in the AR-RAHNU exposure draft. According to the Age of Majority Act 1971 Section 2, a person who has attained the age of 18 years is deemed to have legal capacity. The condition for the pledge to be 18 years or older by RHB Bank are in line with the requirements in the exposure draft. Another contract that used by RHB Islamic Bank is UJRA, which means payment or charge for services provided by the bank as a deposit fee to keep gold safe, while the agreement to keep assets for others to keep is Wadiyah Damanah. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter.
We continue with the question 2, which is regarding combination of contract in AR-RAHNU. The question is identify the type of contracts combined in the AR-RAHNU stated in the exposure draft and the contract stated in the selected institution's product disclosure handout. For the exposure draft, there are several types of contracts including qard, murabahah, tawarruk and bai'inah, istisna, ijarah, kafalah, mudarrabah and musyarakah or wakalah bi al-istithmar. While for the RHB, there are qard, rahnu, ujrah and wadi'ah yad amanah. Now, are they outlined and described clearly? Yes, all are outlined and described one by one, followed by the meanings and explanation of the concepts. Question 3 is about the contracting parties. Who are the parties involved as in the exposure draft? The parties are pledger and pledgee at a minimum. So what are the conditions? That particular parties must be a natural person, which is a legal entity that must have the legal capacity to enter the RAHNU contract. From the Sharia concept perspective, a natural person's legal capacity should include the ability to assume the rights and duties as well as the ability to give legal effect to their actions. The person must possess sound mind and the capacity to distinguish between what is beneficial and harmful to one's interest. So, is it the same in the RHB AR-RAHNU Facility I? The answer is yes. The contracting parties involved in the exposure draft is the same as stated in the RHB AR-RAHNU Facility I. Does the selected institution provide info on both contracting parties? Yes, RHB AR-RAHNU Facility I also involve the pledger and the pledgee. And it is stated that both parties involved are the bank and customer.
Hi, I'm Nur Ashki. So we move to question number 4, which is condition of pledge item or marhun. The Sharia criteria in Bank Negara Malaysia's exposure draft emphasizes the most important characteristic to aid comprehension. The exposure draft specifies 2 categories of collateral, which are a physical asset used to carry on Sharia compliant operation and mixed financial assets or Sharia non-compliant activity. The obligator, a third party, or The obligator and a third party must own the collateral. Before making a collateral, a pledge that is entirely or partially held by a third party must acquire the approval by the third party. Physical possession, or we known as hak hakiki or constructive possession, or we known as hak hukmi of the collateral is possible. The person in possession of collateral must be kept on trust, or we call as amanah. Meanwhile, a person in possession of the collateral is accountable for any injury or loss to the collateral and must compensate for it. The same is true for the exposure draft. The RHB Bank is also responsible for the circumstances of pledge item. The loan must be paid as well as the monthly safekeeping fees. When the facility's terms end or it is reclaimed or it is extended, the payment must be paid in full, whichever applicable. The monthly price for the gold jewelry safekeeping service must be paid. The charge is based on the value of the gold jewelries that was stolen. This is the monthly safekeeping fee charge, as you guys can see in this table. The following is the example of how to calculate it. There are not have any form of evidence or receipt in the exposure draft, and RHB Bank to present in ensuring the right of the pledger or pledges.
Hi, I'm Sabrina. We will continue with question number 5, focusing on safekeeping fee. What are the requirements stated in exposure draft? Under the requirement of exposure draft provided by Bank Negara Malaysia is divided into 2 categories. Number 1 is expenses incurred in relation to the maintenance, and second is all other expenses including safekeeping, documentation and liquidation of the collateral. Even the collateral owned by the obligor, a third party, or the obligor and a third party, a person who pledged the item, which is pledger, shall bear all expenses incurred. Furthermore, the safekeeping fee or any expenses depend to each organization. Different organization or different financial institution has different rate of fee. Moreover, if pledger fails to fulfill its obligation in paying all the expenses, any expenses borne by the pledgee will be considered a debt owned by pledger, and the pledgee has the right to claim it, such as a person did not pay or not able to pay expenses incurred during process of mortgage. A pledgee or financial institution has the right to claim it by taking the value of collateral item. However, a person who are processing the collateral, which is the financial institution, is responsible for any harm or loss to the collateral and must compensate for it if anything happened. Jump to the next questions. What about the practices of selected institution? Is there any differences between the current practices and the outline draft? Our selected institution is RHB Islamic Bank. A few practices have been set up under the institution. Focus to safekeeping fee under RHB Islamic Bank is the safekeeping period and fees is predetermined and agreed by both parties, which is bank and customers. The period of tenure will be given 6 months for the maturity date. If a customer wants to extend up to 12 months, which is a year, they need to pay previous safekeeping tenure at least 1 day before the maturity of the tenure. RHB Islamic Bank has not allowed any extension after 12-month tenure calculated from the first day of safekeeping. For the safekeeping fee under RHB Bank, customer need to pay for the monthly safekeeping services of the gold jewelry. The fee is fixed according to the value of the pledged gold jewelry as the table shows in the slide. Under RHB Bank also, customer need to responsible to bear all professional fees and taxes and any expenses incurred. Similar to Bank Negara Malaysia exposure draft, RHB Bank does not require a guarantor and only accept gold jewelry as collateral. Furthermore, if consumers are unable to pay the total amount due, which is include both the loan and the safeguarding fee, the bank has the right to auction off the gold to recover the full amount owed. Overall, RHB Islamic Bank is AR-RAHNU did not have any differences in safekeeping fees between the current practices with the exposure draft from Bank Negara Malaysia.
My name is Aiza and I will be talking about the liquidation of pledged items. So what are the actions that can be taken in relation to the liquidation of the pledged items? Based on the information stated in exposure draft of Bank Negara Malaysia, the liquidation of the collateral must be conducted in accordance with the provisions of the contracting parties agreement. The pledgee may require that the owner appoints him, his agent or a third party to perform the liquidation procedure at the time of entering the RAHNU contract. Any individual who handles the liquidation procedure must seek the owner's prior approval in the absence of any requirement. It is also specified that the collateral can be liquidated in its entirety or in parts. The pledgee has the right to collect the proceeds of the collateral's liquidation to satisfy the obligor's liability or obligation. If the funds from the liquidation of the collateral are insufficient to satisfy the pledgee's responsibility or obligation, the balance becomes the obligor's liability or obligation. In regard to the previous statement, the pledgee has the option of demanding the balance from the obligor or waiving his right to do so. If the revenues from the liquidation of the collateral exceed the obligor's duty or obligation, the excess amount must be repaid to the asset's owner. The next question would be, what is the current practice of selected institution? Are they aligned with each other? So the current practice of RHB Bank, which is our chosen institution, is aligned with the most of the conditions stated in the exposure draft of Bank Negara Malaysia. RHB Bank highlights the importance of a third party to perform the liquidation procedure at the time of the contract. RHB Bank requires the person who handles the liquidation process seek the owner's consent for any absence of requirement. The next question would be, what can your group conclude from the above analysis on the AR-RAHNU practices in the selected institution, which is RHB Bank? It can be concluded that RHB Bank has high standards of AR-RAHNU practices. Most of the procedures are straightforward and customer-friendly. RHB Bank also practices some Sharia concepts like CARD, which is an interest-free loan, and Ujrah, that refers to fees provided, which RHB Bank provides reasonably, and customers who select RHB Bank as their provider for AR-RAHNU service will be delightful to know that everything is well prepared. That is all from me. Thank you.